Happy Sunday, everyone. I'm Taylor, and it's time for the Weekly Rundown. We're gonna start things off a little catty. All you cat-loving single fellas out there, we've got some catastrophic news. Turns out guys who like cats are less likely to get a date. Now, if you're thinking you've cat to be kidding me, there was actually a study on this. Scientists at Colorado State University showed more than 700 women photos of two guys, one by themselves and the second with a cat companion. And their luck got noticeably worse when women saw them cuddling a cat. Now, it's not a huge drop, only about 5%, so why such the fuss over felines? I don't know. Moving on to some other animals now, a zoo in New York teamed up with a local museum to give a very special date night to a couple of their animals. Poe, the Sumatran chicken, and Leo, a leopard tortoise, went on a date to the Munson Williams Proctor Arts Institute. Officials at the Utica Zoo saw a group of penguins in Kansas City touring a museum and wanted to give the same enrichment to their animals as well. The chicken and tortoise were very respectful of the art, making sure not to touch or peck at any of the work. The two had the museum all to themselves, giving them time to properly observe various works of art. If that date isn't your cup of tea, then this one definitely will be. This next story will make anyone smile. One Minnesota couple isn't letting the pandemic keep them from tying the knot in a celebration that may mean even more to the bride's mother. Frank Vescayaro has the story.
I was not expecting it at all.
Hi!
For the first time in months, it was supposed to be a date night out on the town.
I was like crying in the car and out of the car, and then there was rose petals inside.
But when Maggie Erickson pulled up to St. Paul's Neighborhood Cafe on Friday, she knew this was different.
I always wanted to happen at my workplace.
Aiden Kilgannon has worked there for 3 years. The couple with Down syndrome met 7 months ago.
I thought that she was the one.
Aiden told us he'd been planning every last detail since.
He just went down on the one knee and asked me.
Pretty special.
But perhaps the moment meant even more to Maggie's mom. Kathy raised her as a single mother and refused to set limits on what she could do.
In our case, Maggie's developed substantial independence.
Now, in her final stages of her own fight against stage 4 pancreatic cancer, Kathy couldn't be more proud of the young woman she raised.
I just couldn't imagine not being here because I enjoy our life so much.
A fever has put Kathy back in the hospital for now. Her vow? Do all she can to be there the day her determined daughter
Follow your dreams and keep shining with your voice.
takes her walk down the aisle.
I know she's ready, and I just have to make sure I'm ready.
And fun fact, Aiden and Maggie already have bought a house together. Congrats to them. A message in a bottle was recently found in an Alaskan river, and now the mystery of who wrote the letter has been solved. Amy Davies and Angela Goodell were about 14 years old on a camping trip together in Houston, Alaska, when they decided to write the letter. They threw the IBC root beer bottle in the water, not expecting anyone to ever find it, but just a few weeks ago, a 4-year-old boy found it in the Little Susitna River in Anchorage while fishing with his grandpa.
We found this message in a bottle.
The women, now 27 years old and both married with kids, reached out after seeing a story about the discovery of the bottle last week. The women say they were surprised but are thrilled to know their letter has been found. Now that's the type of story you only expect to see in movies. Meanwhile, a group of skateboarders took over a street in San Diego with a different message, demanding racial equality. Hundreds of people met at Balboa Park and began skating down 6th Street. They carried signs and a message of unity. The group participated in a, quote, rolling for rights protest. Organizers and participants say they are ready for change and remain hopeful. Now check this out. A retired nurse has built her own coronavirus protective suit out of cardboard. When 82-year-old Farida Rojas leaves her home, she puts on her makeshift mobile protective gear. She slips it on over her head, puts her arms through the holes in the sides, grabs her bag, and sets out. Rojas made it from a cardboard box she got at a pharmacy, and plastic covers the face opening. She can be seen tottering around her neighborhood, popping into bakeries or butchers, or browsing the newspaper stand. People like to take pictures of her, and Rojas has quite the sense of humor about it. Now this is one of my favorite stories from the week. A trickster teenager and a delivery woman, up for some fun, made for big laughs in Delaware. Lynn Staffieri ordered something on Amazon recently, but didn't know her 13-year-old son Jacob put this note in the empty box asking about extra delivery instructions. It says, "No, but knock on the door 3 times and scream abracadabra as loud as you can and run away super fast." Well, here's what happened.
Abracadabra!
She nails it, and the family cracked up when they saw on their doorbell camera. Lynn posted the video on Facebook, and it's been shared more than 20,000 times. She apologized for her son, the jokester, but had big props for the Amazon delivery woman for playing along.
Abracadabra!
A Texas fast food employee has been putting smiles on the faces of coworkers and customers for the last 50 years. And as Alana Keelian reports, she isn't planning to leave anytime soon.
Good morning. Hi, how are you, ma'am?
This is Connie Claxton.
$8.50, and thank you so much.
She's called Whataburger her home away from home for 50 years.
I started in July of 1970.
At 79 years young, she's one of the longest running employees you'll probably meet anywhere.
Just do good when you stay somewhere and just work at it.
From Mesquite to Terrell, she's worked every position.
I wait on about the same people lots of times during the day.
And made lots of friends.
They all got to know me, and I've gotten to know them. Many years ago, one of my favorite things that ever happened at Whataburger, I married one of my customers.
Her husband has since passed on, but she continues to smile, even behind that mask, a friendly presence in an otherwise uncertain world.
Knowing that she's still here, doing them day after day, even amidst this pandemic, is very invigorating to all of us.
That's because hard work is in her veins.
You know, born in a family in North Dakota that we lived on a farm, and everybody just worked. That was just a way of life.
And Connie has no intention of stopping anytime soon.
As long as the Lord gives me health enough to be able to do the job, I plan on being here as long as they'll have me.
Connie holds down the breakfast and lunch shifts during her work week, and I think she's pretty dang cool. Now, coming up after the break, I'm taking you around the world where concerts are being held in boats, plants fill an audience, and fruit is getting quite the worth, if you know what I mean. The Weekly Rundown will be back in 2 minutes. Stick around. Welcome back to the Weekly Rundown, where we wrap up what's been trending throughout the week. Right now, I'm taking you around the world where creativity is spilling out of every country. A Belgian businessman decided it was time to give them coronavirus masks a human face, literally. Using a photo booth, software, and an app on his phone, he is producing masks that have the lower half of the wearer's features printed out on them. He came up with the idea after Belgium's COVID-19 lockdown reduced to zero revenue for his company. Clients can have their masks printed immediately in supermarkets. Blues musicians in an Italian lakeside town came up with a way to play for their fans while adhering to local social distancing measures. Borrow some boats. The group loaded guitars, harmonicas, microphones, and battery-powered amplifiers on 4 small boats with outboard motors. They would stop periodically along the shoreline where groups of fans had gathered, sing a few songs, then motor along. Some music lovers used paddle boards to get a closer but still safe view. Concerts were allowed to start again in Italy June 15th, and bobbing along a calm lake with a backdrop of stunning mountains was within the guidelines for the musicians. Now they say talking and singing to your plants helps them grow. Well, what about playing them an entire symphony? That's what one string quartet did in Spain. An artist in Barcelona had a venue filled with almost 2,300 plants during a performance. Seems like a lot of work placing all those plants, which may leave you wondering why. It's to celebrate Spain coming off lockdown and allowing cultural venues to host performances once again. The Opera House says it hopes the concert reminds people to get closer to nature as they return to normal activity. The plants in attendance, they'll be donated to healthcare workers. After months of taking classes online, some yoga enthusiasts in Toronto were able to mark the International Day of Yoga together. Dozens were able to practice their poses in individual, clear geodesic domes. Every student is assigned their own dome, which stands more than 7 feet tall and 12 feet wide with built-in heating regulation that creates a similar atmosphere as a hot yoga studio. The 50 domes are cleaned and disinfected after every use. With thousands of police officers in Bangladesh infected with the coronavirus, officials are hoping a new approach will help them stem the tide of new cases. And the answer may be yoga. Officials believe having officers practice yoga will boost their immune systems and relieve stress. Over 200 police officers in the capital of Bangladesh attended a mass yoga session. The city's assistant police commissioner says the effort should strengthen the officers' mental health so they can fulfill their duties with a sound mind. This was the first of many planned yoga sessions for the department. A teacher in Bolivia is a superhero to his students, not just figuratively, but quite literally. Sometimes Jorge Villarreal is Spider-Man, other times he is Flash, but one thing that remains constant though is he is always a teacher. He lives out his childhood dreams by dressing up as superheroes for his students. His classes have become so popular that siblings actually fight over the laptop screen to learn from the costume teacher. His class begins with a Zumba warm-up, followed by a prayer, then superhero music to set the proper atmosphere. Okay, now I don't know what's up with fruit this week, but apparently some is worth a lot more than you might think. An original variety of oranges grown in Western Japan has fetched a record high 100,000 yen, or about $935 a piece. The first auction of the season for Obara Beniwase mandarins, no idea if I said that right, took place in Takamatsu City Central Wholesale Market. The greenhouse-grown citrus fruit is known for its deep orange color and sweetness. The price for a box of 25 highest quality oranges came to about $24,000 and weighed about 1,200 pounds. And it's not just mandarins. The season's first Densuki watermelons also fetched 100,000 yen a piece. I mean, I'll take one of those watermelons. Now, as people are spending most lockdowns at home, one couple is spending theirs living in an 800-year-old castle. I could do that. Jeremy Roth has this and more.
A pair of employees at a posh 800-year-old castle in Ireland scored a sweet gig during the country's lockdown when they were asked to move in as caretakers. Since March 25th, Laura Jameson and Michael Smith have been living in Ashford Castle, a 5-star historic hotel in Western Ireland that boasts 83 guest rooms, a spa, 2 gourmet dining rooms, and sprawling ornate grounds. The couple, who've been dating for about a year and a half, says they expect they were offered the job because they offer a balance of skills inside and outside the property. Their duties include vacuuming rugs, dusting chandeliers, and flushing 160 toilets daily. The couple says they log about 30,000 steps every day, keeping everything in order. But they play hard too, like regular date night movies in a theater fit for royalty. From a pair of welcome guests to a not-so-welcome one. Watch a flock of feisty birds terrorize a cat on a roof in Edmonton, Canada. The orange tabby appears visibly nervous as the screeching magpies encircle it. The flock squawks the talk, so the tabby takes a walk, eventually making its escape off the roof. Magpies are known to be aggressive, particularly when protecting fledglings. They'll even swoop down and attack humans if they feel threatened. Locals say magpies and scenes like this are actually common in Edmonton this time of year. You gotta be kidding me. For Take a Look at This, I'm Jeremy Roth.
While Drake is known for his chart-topping singles, the 4-time Grammy winner also proved he's a master of long games. The 33-year-old Canadian rapper posted this video of the moment he successfully sunk a beanbag from the second-story window of his 50,000 square foot Toronto mansion into the center of a cornhole board. He was practicing cornhole trick shots from about 50 feet away from the second-story window of his Toronto palace and put one right in the hole after a few tries. He was pretty pumped about it, as was his lone spectator, the guy recording the epic toss. He captioned the video, "Highlight of summer 2020 so far." Drake should definitely get more than 3 points for that shot. Now, are you looking for something to watch before you get some shut-eye tonight? I know someone who can give you some suggestions. We're checking in with Manny the Movie Guy after the break.
You ready to start the day, Thalia?
You bet.
We got a lot to cover.
And I have something I want to tell you about in your health today.
Hey, it looks as though we have some changes in the weather coming up real soon.
Grab your popcorn, we're talking movies.
Waking up with NBC Palm Springs today, 5 to 7 a.m.
Stand by.
Welcome back to the Weekly Rundown. It's time to check in with everyone's favorite movie critic. Here's Manny the Movie Guy with his pick of the week.
Hello, movie buffs. 2 big comedies for you. So let's begin with the political Irresistible.
And they look down on our bodies.
That's we. You're DC Elite.
The spin room is at the heart of the movie, but it's more concerned about the impact of money on politics.
And cut.
Written and directed by Jon Stewart, the film pokes fun at both the left and the right, with Steve Carell as Gary, the Democrats' top strategist, with an eye on a retired Marine colonel played by Chris Cooper. Gary thinks he's the left's savior to win back the heartland, but his brilliant Republican nemesis, Faith, played by Rose Byrne, has other plans. Irresistible's rural charms are pleasing and the cast is game, even though the twist in the end is self-serving. Still, this fight for the soul of America must be seen. And for that, Irresistible gets 3 out of 4 only on demand kisses. You may have heard of the real Eurovision Song Contest.
To me, it's like soccer for songwriters.
Well, I learned it's more than that. It's a celebration of pride from different European countries by way of singing and songwriting.
This is Eurovision.
It's a battle cry for dreamers everywhere.
Absolutely.
That dreamer is Will Ferrell's Lars, along with his bandmate, the sweet Sigrid, played by Rachel McAdams. They long to represent Iceland in the Eurovision Song Contest. Will they succeed? I love the cast of the film, including Pierce Brosnan as the father of Lars.
Lars's extremely handsome father.
That's it. That's it. That's on my resume.
And the scene stealer Dan Stevens as the Russian diva Alexander Lemtov.
It's sort of loosely based on a Russian singer called Philip Kirkorov and his very sort of opera pop style.
What I like best about the film is its respect for the contest and the contestants. There are elements of elves, crimes, songs, and dances that are all mixed wonderfully together. This is a funny film to lift your fighting spirit.
Thank you for waking up my steered note.
Oh, yeah, you hit that note.
And for that Eurovision Song Contest, The Story of Fire Saga gets 3 out of 4. Stream it on Netflix. Kisses. I'm Manny the Movie Guy, embracing my singing Viking spirit.
We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Weekly Rundown. In times like these, a smile can go a long way. A daddy-daughter duo in Kentucky is starting a movement one smile at a time. Kate Springer has their heartwarming story.
Boo, you my brown-eyed girl.
Maddie Ray loves to dance.
Get a peanut.
She loves her family. And while she can't tell you herself, her smile says it all.
The beauty of her smile and want to share it with the world.
Maddie has Down syndrome and is nonverbal, but it doesn't take much for her to communicate. When nothing else seems clear, it's Maddie's face lighting up that provides clarity for her dad, Michael.
When I always needed to be uplifted, I always had one constant thing in my life, and that was her.
He wondered if Maddie's grin could do that for him. What could it do for others?
What can we do now to take how she has changed my life to impact the lives of strangers?
Smile Project Louisville started with a photo in a Wendy's drive-thru in the spring of 2018.
I said I would love to take a picture to remember us smiling together in this moment, to say, thank you to us.
Hey guys, look, Dynamic Duo here today.
Never knowing a moment would become a movement.
This little platform that I created, really just to create change in my life and within our community, and I often say we live in a very special community in Louisville, has resonated well beyond the city of Louisville.
Are you ready to go surprise Anita? Let's go.
Now he travels around the area with Maddie, spreading hope and happiness, something that costs nothing, but the payoff is huge. Smile after smile, story after story. At first taking pictures of strangers throughout the city, and now granting random acts of kindness.
People started nominating people and would be like, telling the story of why somebody needed a smile.
I'm going to socially distance these balloons.
That takes a little creativity these days.
We've used 10-foot poles, and I put giant plastic over me to hug it out with people.
Each one a chance to change someone's day, someone's life.
We're going through some crazy times, whether it's a pandemic and all the stuff recently, with race relations, is that if you lead with love and you find love in your heart, you have the ability then to go around and smile at complete strangers.
It's real, man.
He recently took his message to 28th and Broadway outside the looted, boarded up Kroger, an act of kindness that tripled right in front of his eyes.
It happened to be James, and it's an amazing moment.
You have $100. To go into Kroger's and shop.
It's that kind of moment he hopes to continue spreading with Maddie by his side.
I tell people we smile because life is hard, not easy.
Dad and daughter using a special smile to spread a message. No words necessary.
Be the reason someone smiles today, and I say, hey, give him a kiss, blow him a kiss.
Don't you just love that story? We'll be right back after the break. Today is National Alaska Day. Who would have ever known? So shout out to Alaska, where it's not a nice 109 degrees. I also want to give a shout out to my little brother this week. Today is his birthday and he's officially a teenager now. So happy birthday to him. I'm gonna go enjoy my evening with him. Have a good week, everyone.